I left the virtually perfect weather of San Diego and moved to Montana, and everyone thought that I was crazy. The truth is, maybe I was. And if you know anything about the cost of living in Bozeman, it definitely wasn't so I could save money. Property values out here in the Gallatin Valley are pretty damn close to the same as San Diego, both averaging close to $1 million for a single family home. And it certainly wasn't because I was searching for better Mexican food. In reality, there are some major differences between the two places, but surprisingly, there are a lot of similarities as well. This made the transition way easier than I was expecting. So let's start by getting the most obvious and major difference out of the way, and that's the temperature. Yes, San Diego's weather is nearly perfect, and the average temp is a comfortable 70 degrees most of the year. And yes, Montana can get brutally cold, but what I found out actually surprised me. While San Diego stays warmer, there's actually only an average of 140 days of sunshine, while Bozeman averages 320 days of sunshine a year. And while in the winter, Bozeman can dip into the negatives, it actually has an average yearly temp of a shocking 56 degrees. That's why I quickly found out that my favorite weather was 35 degrees and sunny, which luckily makes up a good portion of the winter out here. And the climates are pretty similar. Bozeman is dry, low humidity, sitting at 60%. So is San Diego, averaging 69%. As similar as they might actually be though, the summers are arguably better in the mountains. So it definitely wasn't for the weather. Now you might think it was because I wanted a change in the speed at which I was living. From the surface, Montana seems like the perfect place to go when you want to just kick your feet up, take in the view, and relax. And while it is a great place to do that, Bozeman actually has an underlying energy that demands adherence if you want to succeed. It's growing at 3.8% a year. It's become one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and the population, they're young, they're hungry, their overall age is 28 years old, and there's competition in almost every sector. And the bar, it's set pretty high considering unemployment sits at just under 2%. While San Diego is slower than LA or New York, there's still a good amount of forward momentum there as well. So I'd say that transition was actually way smoother than expected. I guess that means change of pace is out. Next, you might think it was because I wanted to change in the political landscape. It's pretty widely known that California is one of the most left-leaning states in the country. They have voted blue in every presidential election since 1992. It's blue almost everywhere. And if its leadership or lack thereof isn't an indication of its baseline politics, then I don't know what else is. It is a tough place to live right now, with over 180,000 people living without shelter, and I completely understand why there's a mass exodus in the works. People are leaving in droves and moving to states like Texas, North Carolina, and Montana. But what I found out when I moved here, and mind you, I've been here almost 10 years, is that not all Montana is bleeding red. There's a decent amount of centrists and liberals living in the state. Actually, 52% are Democratic voters, and they live right here in Bozeman. There's actually Instagrams solely dedicated to highlighting some of the most radical liberals out roaming the streets. And I'm a pretty centrist person. I believe in limited government, a person's right to choose 100% of the choices that affect them directly, and that our defense budget is totally justified. And I back the badge. There are good and bad people everywhere, but when it comes to police, the majority of them are good, and a city without them would be shockingly bad. So again, no, it wasn't for any political reason. So my friends are under the impression that I moved out here to have better access to the sports I grew up loving, and they would partially be right. As much as I love dirt bikes and mountain biking and snowboarding, San Diego actually sits in such a perfect spot, just geographically, that you can go snowboarding, surfing, and dirt bike riding all in the same day. There's the San Bernardino Mountains, which reach 11,000 feet, and the Mojave Desert, which is almost 50,000 square miles, and the Pacific Ocean, which we all know is massive. And they're all within an hour and a half of each other. Bozeman, on the other hand, allows you to get a few runs in at Bridger Bowl before your noon appointment, which would never be possible in San Diego. And the mountain biking and dirt biking, it's some of the best in the world. There's literally over 15,000 miles of designated trails, and you would never be able to ride them all. They're both incredible places to live if you like to get outside and to get your heart rate going. So again, no, it wasn't because I was looking for a place to spend more time outside or on two wheels. So I could list off a million reasons that actually led me to making the move. Like my sister was out here and she had an extra room for me, or that my lease had just ended on my place in Ocean Beach, and I was about to have to start house hunting, which I hate, or that I just got out of a long-term relationship, or that I was a bartender at the time and I knew I could find work easily somewhere else, or that my mom was also moving at the same time and heading to the East Coast. There's a whole list of other reasons that when added up made it a smart choice, but the truth is there's only one main reason, and that was for a change. I lived in San Diego for 30 years, and as much as I loved it, I knew I didn't want to look back on my life and have every chapter of it take place in Southern California. And I don't think I'm alone in this reasoning. A lot of people move here because they want something different, but not too different. We still want most of the things we've grown accustomed to. We want our life to change, but not necessarily our lifestyle. And I moved here and I quickly found out that I was getting the best of both worlds. In Bozeman, you trade access to the mountains to San Diego's access to the ocean, but really that's it. If you like to surf, you learn to snowboard. If you like to ocean fish, then you learn to fly fish. If you're used to riding four-wheelers in the dunes, you buy a snowmobile. And if you really just want a beautiful, accommodating place to live your best life, you take your pick between the two. As much as Gallatin Valley natives hate to hear it, the two places are more alike than most people think. I left San Diego because I wanted to change, but I didn't want to sacrifice a bunch of who I was and what I love to do, and I really couldn't have picked a better place. The transition was painless and arguably the best decision I've ever made. Now, don't get me wrong, there are absolutely differences, but if you're a West Coast ocean person and you're ready to start your mountain chapter, this is the place to do it. I'm definitely gonna get trashed by locals for telling people how amazing it is here. But like I always tell people, if you live in an amazing place and you think it's perfect, you can't expect other people to not want to be there too. It's a sacrifice you have to make living in a special place, especially as special as Bozeman. People are gonna want to live there too. We can't just be out here gatekeeping and hoarding all the special for ourselves. San Diego, Bozeman. Same but different, but same. So if you're interested in making the change yourself and you want to know all the little things I did to make my move even easier, reach out. I would be happy to help. Life is too short to just live in one place. And in the words of John Muir, the mountains are calling and I must go. Thanks for watching, friends. And remember, if you're healthy and you're alive, then the place you're living is already a pretty special place.